This episode has been brought to you by Capture. Capture your life.
And we are live. Hey guys, this is Carlos Phoenix. I am with the Lounge Network and also the livestreamingmaster.com business. And we are here on Facebook. We were having some technical difficulties. So what we decided to do is just start a recording and then we'll post it. My special guests today are Soi Fabulous, who is a singer, songwriter, actress living in Miami, and also coming live from LA. We have Gino Montesinos, who is an actor and director, and he has directed one of the projects that we will be talking about today. So, hello and welcome.
Thank you very much.
I am in Atlanta, so you can see that this is a nationwide conversation. And it is a nationwide conversation. It's going to be a very important conversation. So one of the things I wanted to kind of get into, one is to let people know a little bit about Soi. So Soi, if you can tell us a little bit about your background. You're from New York. You got into singing and songwriting and all that type of stuff. And then we can lead towards the project that we're going to speak about today. Is that okay?
Yes.
Fantastic.
I am from New York. My parents are Colombian. I'm a singer-songwriter / actress. You can look at all my work on YouTube, Soi Fabulous, iTunes, Spotify. You can find me there. And I'm excited to be back. I took a long hiatus. It was supposed to be for a little while, and, it just took longer than expected. But I'm happy. During that time, I definitely grew as an artist. And, an album that I did in 2014, I also decided to have a baby at the same time while I was creating an album. And when they both came out at the same time, I thought I can focus on both, but I knew I couldn't in a way. And I'm now going to begin pushing that album.
Okay, so can you tell us a little bit about that album?
Okay, it's called Entre Galaxias. Part of the reason it's called Entre Galaxias is because as an artist, I go through a journey through many different genres, from rock and roll, from English to Spanish to gospel to like dance music, a little bit of reggae, and a little bit of salsa, like a salsa. And each song has a different story. One, I play a fortune teller. Another story I have an alien boyfriend, and not just any alien. It's Thor from Marvel, honey. That's who I was singing in my head. Okay. I'm sorry to my husband, but he's fabulous. And then the next one was, I play a hairdresser who's broke, looking for a sugar daddy. And then there's another one where, I'm a cougar, and, I have a young boyfriend. And all the old ladies are criticizing me, but they're like, I want a piece of that action, So that's why it's called Entre Galaxias. You're going through the galaxies as an artist and different genres.
Awesome. So then, so now Gino worked on a project with you, and it's one of the songs on the album. Now, what's interesting is those who may not know, I did the album cover. I don't think I prepared it to show, but I'll try and get it before the end of the show. And so, can you tell us a little bit about that song, if you want to?
Well, let's talk about the painting that you did, so everybody knows. Thank you. Yes. While I was recording, I was also on a mission. When I tell you I was on a mission on making a baby, I was pregnant 3 times in 9 months. So good job, Humphrey. But so my body, I kept gaining and losing. And I was getting pressure from the record label, Big Dream Music. They're like, okay, we got to do family headshot. We got to do this. And like, I'm trying to make a baby. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go old school like they did back then. And we're going to do a painting. So my body on that painting is actually Carlos's teenage daughter. So thank you very much. And then, because I was pregnant. And then we used my head, a picture that I sent him. So, and then the song Fallen Angel, that song was, of course, my entire album, it was 4 people. The writers were myself, Alejandro Jaime, Pedro Miguel Morales, and Angelica Payano. And when we wrote the song Fallen Angel, director Leon Raymond Mitchell, he sent me a script for a movie called Drinking from Satan's Cup. And he was like, I want you to write a song for this woman who's an assassin. She's going to kill a whole bunch of people, and I want you to tell the story through your song. So I already knew what I wanted. I wanted rock, opera, Broadway show discussing everything that she's doing. And because the song was called, the movie was called Drinking from Satan's Cup, I'm like, I don't want to talk about Satan. I'm Catholic, so we made it into very Catholic. I said, I need, the Catholic, I need the priest, and and I want to pray for this person, because I know we're all born in sin according to the world through God. But me, I was like, how does somebody turn from when you're born to evil where you start killing people? So I created the whole song that way. But my inspiration was a friend of mine who, she was a stripper. I don't know if she got into prostitution, maybe. She did a lot of drugs. She did marijuana. She did coke, all types of prescription pills, and was already, tapping into heroin. So a lot of my song was written for her, and was my prayer to God that you save this girl and let her see the light.
She was lost in the wind. The snow fell down from her skin. Innocence gone, and the darkness came in.
So that's what that video is about. So when finally the movie, I'm waiting, and I thought I was going to be singing and just have action shots of the movie. It never happened. And after I've been gone for so many years, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to come back with this song. This is a song that's different. It has no rules. I don't care what people say anymore. Like, oh, you have to do reggaeton. Oh, you have to do this. Or you have to do that. Like, you know what? This song, we created it to do whatever I wanted to do with it. So when I brought it to Gino, I told him, this is what it's about. He's like, no, we need to dig deeper. Who is this woman? I go, no, she's an assassin. No, who is she? And then he's like, she's, let's use your friend. And he's like, let's make this music video a heroin overdose. And I'm like, you're freaking crazy. And then he was like, it's your responsibility as an artist to spread the message of drugs and to get people to wake up and to stop using drugs and see what the consequences are. Because you ruin everybody's life. You can end yours and ruin your entire family, your children, your kids, your parents, your loved ones. So I was scared, but I'm like, you know what? I'm just seeing in the news and all over YouTube. I mean, it's a big problem, not only in the United States of 164 people dying a day, but it's 52,000 people in the United States. And now we're seeing more. Now Michael Jackson died of prescription drugs. Prince, is it Tom Petty? I don't know. Tom Petty.
Tom Petty.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, and I think Prince was recently released information where he didn't even realize the pills he was taking. He took the wrong pills. But he, but he had the pills to begin with. So, all right. So, Gino, explain to me your involvement in the project.
Yeah. So basically, just serendipitously, completely by chance, Soi asked me to do the project, and I was, I'm an actor. I've been an actor for a long time. I'm a trained director. I had just finished a directing course, a place called the Acting Center, which is terrific. And I had directed a lot of theater, and I had this sort of belief that, limiting belief that I couldn't direct film. It was just sort of a generalized fear based on no truth at all. And then, so, she said, I took it like, well, 4 minutes must be easier than a short of 12 minutes or a feature of 2 hours. And so out of sheer curiosity, I just said, okay, let me take this on. Her production team had fallen out and she needed help, and, I made myself available. And what was really interesting was, like, I needed to understand what the story was about. It's not just, I'm going to make pretty pictures and shoot her this way and shoot her that way. And we had to really kind of figure out what was this story about? What story was she trying to tell? And when I listened to the music, it reminded me of the concept albums from the 70s, Jesus Christ Superstar in particular. And she had talked a lot about desert, and she talked about being a shaman, and that kind of motif. So we went to the Grand Canyon in Arizona, and we just shot a lot of stuff on the fly in the Grand Canyon, in Nevada, on the Sunset Strip, and we just kept shooting, and I kept asking her questions on what story she wanted to tell, and she told me about her friend, and then I started doing my own research, and I said, hey, there's an opioid crisis. Opioids are the medical term for any class of drug that has an opium type effect, or coming from the opium plant, which is where heroin comes from. So that could be anything from morphine to OxyContin, and what's really killing people, something called fentanyl, which is, I believe, is 50 times more powerful than heroin. Heroin used to be the most powerful drug. You would start at pot and graduate many years later into heroin, and now there's a drug 50 times more powerful than heroin. And a lot of cheap Mexican heroin, I learned, was coming from Mexico. I believe it's called Mexican brown. And so the sad part that was happening was, in the fancy language of pharmaceutical companies, talking about quote unquote pain management, they'd give you a little pill that make you feel okay. And they didn't talk about that this pill is addictive. And so people would start on, they'd get into a car accident or whatever, and they'd take a pill, and that pill became 2, became 4, and then they're hooked. And then they can't get a refill, so they have to buy on the street. And on the street, instead of a pill costing $10, maybe it's $80, maybe it's $100. And then they discover, well, heroin is cheaper. It's $5, and it's enough of a bang, of a high as the $80 pill. And then before you know it, you have what is happening now, white middle-class heroin addicts in the middle of suburbs all over the United States. And, quote unquote, it used to be okay in the 60s and 70s when it was a Black Hispanic problem in the inner cities. And now it's killing everybody. Mm-hmm. And it's a really shame. And I remember, as a director, you want to research what you're talking about. And the more and more I researched, the more emotionally involved I became with the story. And so that's pretty much what it transformed into. And then I realized that this is a Holocaust that's happening. Holocaust is normally used for what the Nazis did to the Jews and other quote-unquote undesirables in World War II. I believe it was about 14 million people were killed. But a Holocaust also means massive destruction, or destruction on a massive scale that basically kills many people, usually by fire or nuclear war. And so I kept doing more and more research, and I discovered that in 1 year, in 2016, more people died from opioid and heroin addiction in 1 year than 16 years of combat soldiers in the Vietnam War. Now, people may not remember the Vietnam War, but several million people were killed in the Vietnam War, Vietnamese, unfortunately. And at least 500,000 soldiers in a 16-year period, a 20-year period in the Vietnam War were wounded. And in a 16-year period, 58,000, 57,000. Well, in 2016, over 62,000 people overdosed on opioids and heroin. That's a Holocaust. That is destruction on a mass scale. And I invited Soi. I said, and when you see the video, you'll see the direct correlation between the Nazi Holocaust and what's going on now. And there's something about the human species that, I don't know, wholesale slaughter seems to be its thing. And we just have to, as artists, if we cannot stop it, I'm not political, for example. If we can't stop it, at least we should, call attention to it, because it really does have to stop.
Right. Well, so it is a major problem. I know politically it's starting to come out more into the open as an open conversation. We mentioned before that Walmart started limiting the amount of days of drugs that their pharmacies are going to be permitted to release. Some states are making that law, and it is a major problem, particularly because of the fact that so many different drugs are just easily prescribed, such as antibiotics and opioids, because people will even exaggerate their pain just so they can get access to such drugs. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Soi.
I want to say something. The fact that you're saying prescription drugs, I live here in Pembroke Pines, Florida. It's a middle-class neighborhood. The houses are anywhere between 200 to a million. And I hung out. I've met some young kids. And, I was telling them about my music video that's coming out. And they're like, yeah, there is a big problem. There's something called the Skittle Party. And I'm like, what is a Skittle Party?
Wow.
And they said, that's when we steal prescription drugs from our parents' cabinets. And we go to a party when nobody's home. And we just put hundreds of pills, all different colors, so it looks like Skittles. And we start popping them. And there's nothing wrong with prescription drugs because they're prescribed by doctors. We're not getting it from the streets, and it's okay because mom and dad have it in the cabinets. And what's starting to open up their eyes, which is scary. How can you take something that you don't even know? And they said that many children overdose, and it's not talked about. And that's why I agreed with Gino to do this, because I'm like, I'm pissed off. The only time you hear about an overdose is when a famous star. What about our children? And I Googled, the youngest one to overdose from drugs was 14 years old, all the way up to age 65. And some of them, I have a friend who died. What did she do? She had Valium and alcohol, okay, and died in her own vomit. And that is normal. That happens all the time, and we don't hear about it.
Quick interruption. This episode has been brought to you by Mimo Live.
So you have this song that you've now made a video that focuses on this epidemic. What do you want to now do? What do you want to? How do you want to put this out there? And because it's not out available yet to be watched.
May 13th.
May 13th. Okay, great. So what's your mission with this video outside of just the message? Is there something more that you want to go beyond the video?
Where is it going when the song comes out?
Yeah, so where are you going to have the song? And then is there anything else you want to do beyond just releasing the song? Like what other goals do you want to accomplish with this song?
Well, I mean, first it's going on my YouTube page, Soi Fabulous. Anybody who watching the video, of course, if they know of somebody, we showed it to several people, and they've cried. And I'm like, why are you crying? Well, because my brother's on heroin. I didn't want nobody to know. And I met the brother, and I kind of knew, but I didn't talk about it. And another person, it's becoming normal, And if they can all share, great. I would love all the rehab centers of America, to show this And you know what? Some people are unfortunately just going to die. They're addicted. They don't care, they don't think it can happen to them. I'm really hoping that it could be an awakening. I would love to go to, Washington, D.C. and, let them talk about it. I want to go on Oprah. I want to go on Ellen. I mean, this is what I want to do. I can't do this by myself. If you look up my views on Facebook, what do I have? 1,000? I have 950 here. My other channels, have maybe the top one has 14,000. I'm lost on the internet. And what I need is people to help me spread the message. Because I look at videos on Facebook that have 50 million views and it's some person acting silly. That gets up there. But I'm hoping that a message will get out there, which is more important. So.
Yeah, and one thing I've discovered, I've been an artist. I've been making my living as an artist for the past 15 years. I'm a real artist, and one of the things that you always try to do as an artist is to work from an organic, truthful place. And what that means is that you try not to have a sort of like how can I put it, a cynical endpoint to it. Oh, I'm gonna do this and this so that I can get a series and I can get a movie deal or whatever, that kind of thing. Right. That usually doesn't work. What usually becomes explosive and timeless and iconic, something that lasts forever, is when you're working from a really truthful place. This is the first time that I've directed. And in just answering some really, really truthful questions that this material presented to me, Soi tells me, I don't even know, that I'm sort of kind of reinventing the wheel, reinventing what a music video should do or does. And we're coming up with some really wonderful, expressive material, and that's all cool. And what that taught me as an artist, these lessons I want to take back to my acting career. I'll give you a quick example. There's certain choices that are made in the video because when I made the choice, I had to stop working and I cried for 5 minutes uncontrollably. And that type of personal, vulnerable work, I have to be honest, as an actor, I've done maybe once or twice in my career, which made me look back to my acting career and say, hey, I'm up for two things, which we'll talk about. I'm going to bring that kind of, artistry and personalization to my work. And the other, what that also taught me was, I genuinely don't know what avenues we're going to pursue, but I consider this video a clarion call. A clarion call is a trumpet to action. It's a battle cry to the soldiers from the general to get out there and attack. And I mean attack the problem. So if it means, talking to 100 congressmen who just very politely say hello, or, writing 100 unanswered letters to the White House, or et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, we're just going to try every avenue and just try to get the song out there in as truthful and organic as a way possible. And I'm confident something very interesting will happen, because that's been our journey. We've been working on this project for 13 months now, over a year. And, it's been every time that we've just sort of been honest and truthful to it and to its expression, fantastic stuff has come about. And I think that's a good way to run your life and your art from here forward.
I'm going to piggyback on what Gino said. We had different storylines that we were discussing for the music video, and we're driving, and all of a sudden when Gino said, this is about, because the girl who's playing is my daughter. It's my real daughter. So we put her as an adult. And he's like, the story is about Mia growing up to be a heroin addict, and she dies of an overdose. And Gino started crying. Our production designer, Rob C, started crying. My husband, who I've been for 13 years, I've only seen him weep once, and that was when his aunt passed away. He started crying, and I started crying. So as soon as we're all crying in the car, we're like, that's it. That's the story. And that's what Gino meant by organic. You know, it was just amazing. And that's where I want to work from.
Okay.
So I don't know, should we give away the premise or not? I guess we can. It's okay. The entire video, another thing that I researched, when you are about to die, you often have a hallucination on your deathbed. It's called a deathbed hallucination. So the entire 4 minute and 19-second video is the fallen angel dying of an overdose, and she sees her life flashing before her eyes. And that, according to my research, that deathbed hallucination is not chronological. They're random sort of images. You know, you've heard of your life flashing before your eyes right before you die. That's an actual thing. And that's the video that you see.
That puts a lot of things in perspective.
Oh, I'm glad.
That's doing that.
I'm glad. I personally, and this is just personal opinion, and you know, I'm not here to criticize anybody else's art. My personal opinion is I find not very interesting your typical music video that is just either, you know, hot girl, hot boy, or 85 different cuts for the sake of 85 different cuts, or random images that I really don't care about. You know, and I said to Soi, I said, you know, if you want me to do that, I'm not your guy. You know, let me just give you your materials back. Love you, no problem. I just, you know, my time is very valuable, and I'm not going to, unless you're paying me an extraordinary amount of money, because I'm very well paid in Hollywood as an actor, I'm not doing it because it's boring. You know, and you know, it's like what Soi was saying about 50 million views with the person playing their puppy. You know, Lord have mercy. Maybe we've taken so much drugs as a society that that's the extent of our intellect. And you know what I mean? Like all we can do is appreciate puppies. I don't know. But I wasn't interested, you know, again.
We don't want
you know,
the dog people after us now.
Oh, yeah, the dark state. Yeah, the deep state, exactly. No, you know, the thing is, I mean, I'm not here to make myself, you know, some grand, you know, marshal of, you know, let's, you know, attack the pharmaceutical industry or anything. All I'm saying is that I think this is a really, really important thing that's happening in our society. I stumbled upon it. I feel responsible that I should express what I know about it. Here it is. I hope you enjoy it. May it touch one life. If it touches one life and gets one person off of heroin or fentanyl or OxyContin, I'm a happy man. I have been paid. And I'm sure Soi the same.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, so let's see. We're at half an hour. I don't know if you want to continue the conversation or if there's any other things you wanted to kind of point out. Go ahead, Soi.
You can ask about Gino, like what his projects that he's working on or whatever.
Oh yeah, so well, yeah, because he is the mystery guy, right? he's like behind the scenes and stuff. Well, he's not always behind the scenes. He is an actor who's worked on some television projects. So tell us a little bit about what you've done before.
I mean, I've done a lot of stuff. I started that's right there a guest star that I did on Chicago Med. It's the producer of Law and Order. You know, I've done work with Jim Carrey on Bruce Almighty back in the day. I got to work with Jamie Foxx on Collateral with Tom Cruise, but unfortunately my part was cut out. I've done movies with William H. Macy. That part was cut out, and you know, a lot of stuff when you're in smaller parts and you're just starting out, you get cut out a lot. But I've probably done 35, 40 television shows, HBO, HBO, CBS, NBC, ABC. You know, so many shows, 24, CSI New York, NCIS Los Angeles, Dexter, And I've done a good probably half dozen studio films and a lot of indies. I did a movie with Michael Shannon last year. He was nominated for the Oscar. I did a movie with I forget who. No, I did a play with him. I'm sorry. I'm thinking I did Hamlet with him, another Oscar winner. I've acted with about 8 Oscar winners, and the thing is, it's just like you just keep working and you keep doing your best work and just, you work hard, you work with amazing people. The cool thing about Hollywood is that the best are here. I mean, the best in the world, Sure, a lot of meaningless crap gets made because it pays the bills and it pays very well. But there's also the really, really smart people are here too. I'm up for 2 major films in major supporting parts, in which I auditioned. I got called back, and both directors, 2 separate films, are very, very interested in me, but I haven't been officially hired yet, and it's kind of nerve-wracking, and I'm trying to not keep my mind occupied. The first movie is produced by Brad Pitt, who's an Oscar-winning producer, and he's got impeccable taste as far as I'm concerned. He's one of my favorites. I can't get into the details of the story. When they give you the script, they trust you not to disseminate it. So I'm not going to tell you what the story's about. But I will tell you, it's by a remarkable writer-director named Miranda July, who has won awards at the Sundance Film Festival and at the Cannes Film Festival. It stars Deborah Winger, nominated for the Oscar, Richard Jenkins, nominated for the Oscar. I will be, I can't say that. Also, Evan Rachel Wood has been nominated for the Emmy. This year, she's the star of Westworld on HBO.
Cool. And
also a fellow Latina from New York, Gina Rodriguez of Jane the Virgin, who did a movie with called, I think, Alienation, with who did Black Snow, that beautiful actress, Israeli.
I don't remember.
Wonder Woman?
I thought no. She went to Harvard. I think the movie's called Alienation, and she stole the movie. She was incredible. She was. I think Gina Rodriguez is unbelievably talented. She's gonna. Those are the 4 major stars, and the writer-director is incredibly talented. And then the producers, Brad Pitt and Annapurna Pictures. That producer's been nominated 4 times. Brad Pitt has won once. And so that's and I would be part of that. I have a small role in that, but it's kind of like a juicy role. And then the other thing I'm waiting is another film with Jim Caviezel. He's the star of Mel Gibson's The Passion of the Christ. He was Jesus Christ. And he was also the star of Person of Interest on CBS. It was a big series on CBS from 2011 to 2017. And he's personally a very Christian actor. So, Soi, you're talking about, bringing your Catholicism to your work. I think it's very brave, and I think it's fantastic. I think it's wonderful. The fact that we have gotten less religious in the 20th century and the 21st century, all that has done, I think, has tens of millions of people have been killed because of that. More people died in the 20th century with the death of God that Nietzsche, a German philosopher, predicted than all the previous generations before, where there was a God. Even people say, religion, the Crusades and all that kind of stuff. But in religion, there was respect for God and for your fellow man. That's kind of out the window. Anyway, this actor, Jim Caviezel, is very brave that he sticks to his guns, and he's created his own market, the Christian market, which I highly recommend that you, we'll talk about it, that we disseminate this video in that market as well, because it's a very big market. Right. People are tired. Right. People are tired of the same, TNA, tits and ass and guns, and it's just ridiculous. You know what I mean?
There's no cursing on my show.
Oh, sorry. And then, so the other film that I'm really, really excited about is that would take place in Colombia, in Bogota, and it takes place in Bogota. That takes place in Cartagena. It would be wonderful because I would go down there for 3 weeks to 4 weeks to play a pedophile. A pedophile is a person who has sex with children, and he's a child sex trafficker. And it's a really important film because it's talking about a true story that actually happened about 7-8 years ago. It's a true story, and the world needs to know that this is happening. And so, the way I was trained, I'm a classically trained actor, graduated from Harvard, also the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. You don't judge your characters. You're like a doctor. You don't judge your characters. That's why the British actor is the best. You don't say, "Oh, I can't play this guy because he's evil." You basically find out why he's evil and really answer that question. And then hopefully the audience, when they see Lucifer before them, they will look at their own evil within and maybe change. But if you're backing off from those choices, that's never that sort of metamorphosis is never going to happen. And I wrote to the director, and I hope he got the letter, that basically I was up for the second lead. I was going to play the partner of Jim Caviezel, and they really liked what I did. And they're like, okay, but physically I wasn't right for the type, whatever his thing was. And then he said, but you're right for this other, play this guy. And then I read the script several times, and I said, this guy's Lucifer incarnate. And I got a little scared. I says, oh my God, I'm going to be like Anthony Perkins after he did Psycho, was never able to play a different type of character. But then I remembered by my great acting class, Falling Angel. Fallen Angel has been, quote unquote, an acting class that I've been in. In other words, Fallen Angel, because I'm a new director and I'm very innocent, like a 6-year-old boy, I don't censor myself. Whereas as I'm an experienced actor, I may censor myself, and that censorship lessens your art. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to play this guy like Lucifer. I will be the worst pedophile in the history of film, will be my goal. And if that ugliness changes the mind of governments to go after their pedophiles that are in Europe and North America and Canada, etc., I will have done my job as an artist. So that's what I'm up to. That's who I am, the mystery man.
Fabulous.
That's awesome.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
Now, what got you into acting?
My father was a PhD candidate in Romance languages, and so he had to watch a lot of films, and so we had films in Manhattan that were called revival houses, and the best, they showed films from the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and the best films, in his opinion, were the 70s films. And he took me to a film called Taxi Driver, starring Robert De Niro. And afterwards, we all went out to dinner, and he would always ask us, he was a teacher, so he would ask us what we thought about the film. And I was very young, maybe 12, and I said to him, Dad, I know this is a movie, and he didn't really kill all those people, but that man, the taxi driver, he's an actor, isn't he? Well, my father said yes. He said, he has the most interesting job of all. I want to do his job. That's a very cool job. My father asked, why? I said, because he gets to feel more than we do. I sit around all day, and if I was to be as emotional and as emotionally involved as this actor in my real life, they would call me crazy. But he gets to do that, and he makes a lot of money, doesn't he? My father said yes. I said, okay, good. Well, I like money too. I want to be an actor, and I've pursued it ever since. And my other hero, two main heroes are Marlon Brando for his greatness, and Laurence Olivier for his ethics. Laurence Olivier was considered the greatest stage actor of all time, but he was also a leader. He raised an entire generation. All the great actors that are British in the 70s, every single one that have won the Oscar were in his theater company. He was their teacher. And so he created the National Theatre of London and of England. And he basically created work for Michael Caine, for Helen Mirren, for Maggie Smith, for all these people who have all won multiple Oscars. And I say to myself, Gino, you need to be like Laurence Olivier and be a great leader of actors. So in a sense, in my little 4-minute small gradient of Fallen Angel, this is me finally getting over whatever fear and beginning to really come into my own as an actor leader, which is what I think I am, truthfully.
Yes, you are, honey. Fabulous.
We had fun on the set. We had fun on the set. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, sets are fun. Now, when you started in film, did you ever work on the set, or were you always either an actor or?
I started primarily in the stage. I started in my youth on stage, what's called equity theater. Equity theater is theater above 100 seats. So I did a lot of theater in New York, the Public Theater, Lincoln Center, what's called off-Broadway. And then I did a lot of off-Broadway where you're not getting paid and you're building your own sets and costumes. And I stopped doing that very quickly because I felt that I was working with mean people who didn't know that much about theater. And when I worked in the off-Broadway and Broadway, they would pay me a lot of money to be around nice people who know what the hell they were talking about. So I limited myself to that, And then I was told that my acting style was perfect for the camera and that I should move to Los Angeles. So I did that. And I
just
came
like when
here.
people tell me I have a face for radio.
Gino, didn't you do Shakespeare in Central Park and in London?
I did Shakespeare with not in actual Central Park, but with the Public Theater is the Shakespeare in the Park theater company. Okay. I worked with my first Oscar winners. I did Shakespeare with Frances McDormand, double Oscar winner. I did Shakespeare with Kevin Kline, Oscar winner. With number of multiple Tony winners at the Public Theater where they do Shakespeare in the Park. And then I also studied at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts. I studied Shakespeare where many, many famous actors came out of Royal Shakespeare Company. Anthony Hopkins. I can't think of, but like the best actors you can think of. And then I came back and
that was in England. That was in England.
That was in England, in London. Okay. And then I did, I remember when I came back and I started doing theater, it was really interesting. I didn't realize I was so well trained until I came back and I started booking everything. And I worked with a Broadway director, another classical piece. And then, and then I went to what's called the American Repertory Theater Institute for Advanced Theater Training at Harvard University. Very long-winded name for a drama school attached to the American Repertory Theater that is on the Cambridge Harvard University campus. And I was basically a graduate student at Harvard for 2 years, and it was really incredible. It was basically, you were doing theater 6 days a week, 12 hours a day for about 10 months out of the year. And so you got to be very good, and that's where I really learned what excellence was. Had wonderful conversations with Mark Rylance, who won the Oscar, with Christopher Walken, who also an Oscar winner, many Tony winners. Because it was encouraged that as a student you go up to, some legend of theater or legend of Hollywood and just ask your questions. I met William H. Macy there. We talked and, met David Mamet there. Then when I saw him he had a television show called The Unit. So when I went and auditioned for The Unit, David, what's happening? And the casting director's mouth is open, like, who's this fucking guy who knows, David Mamet, who knows David Mamet, my boss, et cetera, et cetera. Then I did more theater in Los Angeles. I did more theater in Los Angeles. I worked a lot with another Oscar-nominated guy, Kill Bill, David Carradine. We did a number of plays together. Are you guys there?
Yeah.
Okay. You just have me on full screen. Your guy, I worked with David Carradine probably half a dozen times.
Of course, I'm going to push up full frame. You're talking.
Soi, Kill Bill. You watch Kill Bill?
Of course. That was inspiration for Fallen Angel.
Do you remember Bill, the actor who played Bill?
Yeah.
I did Shakespeare with him. I work with him.
Wow.
Cool.
That's hot.
Yeah, he's probably him and another guy. I swear to you, him and another guy are probably the most talented actors I've ever worked with. They were scary good. They would just pick up a script and just bring it to life in such a way that was incredible. And I think it's because they had no censorship. They would just go. They didn't care.
The only people I can say something like that to is I played softball with Robert De Niro and with Gregory Hines.
Nice.
And they were terrible.
Was it like a charity softball game or something?
No. So I was working. Well, I wasn't even an art director yet. This was like probably one of my first films I worked on, and the director was Gregory Hines.
Oh wow!
And so in New York, when we shoot films during the summer, the different films that are being shot in the summer would play softball in Central Park during the weekends.
Nice.
So I don't know what movie he was working on. Do you remember The Last Dragon?
I didn't see that. I missed it.
Oh my god, Leroy, not Leroy, the guy who thought he was Bruce Lee, kind of a guy.
Mm-hmm.
He was also playing softball with us, so it was cool. We had a ninja and a tap dancer and a taxi driver.
That's fabulous.
I met Robert De Niro once. He's very shy, very, very low key.
He keeps, there's a lot of actors like him.
Mm-hmm.
In fact,
he actually became an actor to get out of his shyness. Acting was therapy for him.
Yeah, I also had dinner 3-4 weeks ago with Issa Morales.
Oh, nice.
And he's kind of low key, as well.
Yeah, he recently got an award from an Armenian. I think last year he got an award from an Armenian Lifetime Achievement Award from an Armenian film festival in Los Angeles, and I met him. He's really, really kind man. Really,
I talk to him almost, well, not daily, but every few days.
Yeah.
Tell him I say hi and let him see this video. Fabulous.
No, I mean, is Issa High School of Performing Arts?
I've never asked him that.
Oh yeah, no.
I had done one of these interviews with him, and then we became friends, and we talk all the time. Yeah,
he's had an incredible career. I mean, he did a movie with Sean Penn at 19 or something.
Mm-hmm.
At 18, something boys, Lost Boys or Bad Boys, and he's been working ever since. So respect. That's really tremendous.
Yeah. He's doing his thing.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Rick Nahara.
And he takes leadership. He's a leader.
Well, he was running for SAG president. In fact, when I interviewed him, it was right before the election.
Really?
He didn't make it.
I would have voted for him. Because I thought
we should have watched the episode then.
I didn't know you existed, man. Go ahead.
All right, guys. So let's pretty much wrap it up.
Okay.
I wanted to thank you guys very much for sharing at least this conversation and letting us know about the message, especially something that's happening now with. Great, now my computer's saying some things. Sorry. Sharing out the message of the song, being able to use music to really kind of point out something that's happening really badly in our country and and it's very timely because things are now being brought to the public about it, and especially with all the deaths and celebrity deaths that we've had recently, it's just creeping up in our country, and it's something that more celebrities should be like pointing it out more so than even like people like us where we're not as famous as they are. But it's great that we can collaborate and put something out there that is pointing it at, pointing fingers at it and saying, hey, this needs to be looked at. We should be talking more about it. Is there anything else you guys want to mention about the song?
Well, I just want to thank you, Carlos, for taking the time to interview us. And we really, 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 really appreciate you. And I know you've always been after me. And I said, when I'm ready, I have something good. And I wanted to wait for the right moment. So this is it. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
And Carlos,
Gino, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Likewise, thank you so much for your generosity of spirit. And I've enjoyed talking with you greatly. My humble wish is that, our little, music video that could maybe is a match that sparks, a forest fire of people knowing what's going on, of awareness, and other bigger artists with more influence get on the bandwagon and help take our country back, because we're losing an entire generation of children. These are young people that are dying. These are not in the 70s. My research told me that the people who were dying were, I think, black men in their 40s and 50s. Now we're looking at white children 14 to 24. Think about that, man. 14 to 24, losing 40,000 a year. I mean, okay, we have a big country, but that's a lot of people, man.
Yeah, it is.
So that's one Vietnam War every year. So and it's I want to be really clear about something. Not that 14 to 24-year-old white people are more valuable than 40 to 50-year-old black men. I want to be very clear about that. What I'm saying is, at least a 40 to 50-year-old human being lived for 40 years. These people are dying at 14, dying at 24. That's a whole different ballgame. And we have to stop it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, thank you. Thank you both, Soi and Gino. And thank you who have watched. Hopefully you saw this whole thing.
Please share the video.
I apologize terribly for the technical issues. In some point in time, I will figure out a way of getting them resolved, like recreate the internet from scratch. So when that happens, then we'll do more shows. All right. So thank you guys again. This is Carlos Phoenix with the Lounge Network.
I just want to say one more thing, Carlos, please.
Yeah.
The music video is called Fallen Angel, and it drops worldwide on Mother's Day, because it is a call for the mothers of the world to take care of their children, our children. Drops this Mother's Day, May 13th. Please watch, please comment, please share, please spread the word. We need, as many eyes upon it as possible. Thank you.
Well, thank you. Okay. So I think that's all. Have a great evening, everyone. Ciao, and happy Mother's Day.